welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today I am just going to do a week in review. Okay, so I'm just going to go over real quick the books that I read this week, tell you a little bit about them. So the first book that I finished in the new year was Eva Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch. And I am not remembering the name of the author on this, but I will put a picture up. And I thought this was really cute. It's a really good story about, it's middle grade. It's about believing in yourself when you can't quite see what others are seeing in you, and to use what you have available to you to help others, to always be willing to help others. And so it just was a sweet story, and left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm sure that it's going to be a series. I'm not sure if it is yet, but I ended up giving a B. Oh, that was Eva Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch. All right, the next one that I finished was Flannery O'Connor's Wise Blood. This is a difficult book. I'm going to set it down, but it's not my first time reading Wise Blood. I'm doing Flannery O'January, and this was the choice for the group read. And I told the whole group when we started that if this would have been my first Flannery book, I never would have read any more of Flannery O'Connor. Part of that is because I was pretty young. I think I was probably 18 or 19 when I read Flannery for the first time. And I didn't have anybody really to explain anything to me or to help me out. And I just read short stories of hers for, that was my first experience. When I read Wise Blood, if I had not have read things prior to that that were a little easier to stomach and a little easier to figure out what it was she was trying to do and what she was trying to say and what was underlying and all of that, I don't know that I would have gone on to read any more, because it is a very, very hard book. It's not hard as far as its readability. It is hard as far as its content, and it's hard to understand. You really have to dig, and you really have to piece things out. And I appreciate Wise Blood. I really do. And I appreciate what Flannery O'Connor does in her writing of everything that she wrote. However, it's probably my least favorite Flannery book. Sorry, guys. So Wise Blood is about a man who has been injured in the war. He is coming back to a homeland that has nothing for him, basically. He doesn't believe in God that his grandfather brought him up to believe in. He thought at one time that he would be a preacher. He's coming back to, everybody in his family is dead and gone. The homestead that he grew up on is no longer there. He doesn't really have a home, and he doesn't really know his place in the world. And because he doesn't believe in God any longer, but doesn't believe that God is real, he is basically just taking himself around and about and trying to figure out why he's here. What's his purpose in this world? Is there a purpose? This book basically is about his journey and what ultimately happens as a result of him trying to be something he isn't, trying not to be something that he is, about a man named Hazel Motes who's just got existential struggles, and Flannery O'Connor likes to terrorize her characters and sometimes the reader in the process. So this book for me was an A-. And the only reason why I gave it an A- is because, like I said, I've got all kinds of notes and stuff in here for when we are going to do our discussion on this book. But that's the reason it's an A- is because I really made an effort to pull things out of the story and to question some things and try to figure out what it was that Flannery wanted to do in this story. So, Wise Blood, Flannery O'Connor. The next one that I read, I actually listened to the audio of. It's a novella by Brandon Sanderson called Silence for Shadows in the Forests of Hell. And it was about a proprietress of a wayside little like tavern before you went into the forests of hell, and her name happens to be Silence, and she also happens to be a bounty hunter, and I can't really tell you anything else because if I do, it's not going to leave any of the story for you. It's too short for that. So I really liked it. It's part of the Cosmere, and so that's part of the reason why I read it. Well, I wanted to try to make sure that I'm all caught up, so when I get the new Brandon Sanderson book in February, I think is when it's due out now. As far as the actual physical book, you have to wait until February. So that way when I get Tress in February, I'll be all caught up and prepared for the next book. So Shadows of Silence, Brandon Sanderson, I gave it a B+, and then I read another one by Brandon Sanderson, also a very short story, and it's called Proper State, and it's more science fiction than anything I've ever read from Brandon Sanderson. So it was very different. That one I gave just a B, and I don't know if it's supposed to fit into the Cosmere or not. I didn't catch anything that should have been Cosmere related if it was supposed to be. The last book that I read this week was called House of Dreams. It's by Liz Rosenberg, and it is a biography on L.M. Montgomery, who is the author of Anne of Green Gables and Emily of New Moon and all of those ones. I think it's the most recent biography about her, and for somebody that has brought the world so much joy, she had a very sad life. And it was a little hard to read because when you love a character so much and a character that has brought so much joy into the world and had a hard life but had a happy ending the way that Anne did, you really want that reflected in the author. and that just wasn't the case. And so it was sad, but it was good. And I thought that Liz Rosenberg's writing was really good. And so I'm happy to have read it, but it just makes my heart sad that her life was not reflective fully in her characters. All right, so what am I reading right now? Right now, I am reading a book that I have read before, but I read it physically before, and Fraser Simon over at Fraser Simon Springboard Thoughts just recently brought it up in a tops and flops kind of video with Shelley Swearingen, and he said that he listened to it on audio and it was excellent. And I actually really enjoyed it when I read it just physically. I think it was a couple of years ago. And it's called The Black Tongue Thief. And gosh darn it, who is the author? I can't remember. Picture. It is extremely irreverent with its language and its humor. It is completely appropriate for the characters. They just get a lot of mileage out of, it's almost bawdy. It's B-A-W-D-Y. It's just fun. It's a fun book for me to be reading right now after finishing some of these heavier books like Wise Blood and the L.M. Montgomery biography. I'm also reading a biography on Flannery. I will put a picture of it up, and just trying to find out a little bit more about her through the eyes of people who have read her but didn't know her. I am reading Plutarch's Lives. I started this at the beginning of December. So Plutarch's Lives, this is the John Dryden translation and is a Modern Library Classics, which is Random House, I do believe. This is written the way, and I didn't know this until I listened to Jennifer Brooks. I didn't know that there was another way for it, that it has been printed. But the reason why it's called Plutarch's Lives is because Plutarch is talking about a Greek and a Roman, and he talks about them side by side. So he talks about the Greek and then he talks about the Roman, or he talks about the Roman and then he talks about the Greek. But he talks about two lives that were very similar, but he talks about these lives of people that were important in Greek history, in Roman history, and he sets them side by side and he talks about them. And I have really enjoyed it. This is volume 2, and you can see it's so double that. I think actually volume 1 was just a little bit longer. And this one is 696 pages. And so together they're probably about 1,400 pages. So it's been wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. I'm so happy that I picked it up. But again, I'm not in a rush to get through it, so I'm taking my time and annotating, making notes, doing all of that. And then lastly, right now, I am also reading Babette's Feast. And this is by Isak Dinesen. And I'm not too far into it yet. It is about the two daughters of a Lutheran minister, kind of almost a sect of Lutheranitarianism, maybe? Lutheranitarianism. And just about these very sweet, very innocent girls who were brought up in a community of Lutherans with their father, and their father has passed away. They continue on their own in this same little community, and one day a woman shows up on their doorstep who needs saving. Basically, she has run away from a country where she is being oppressed, and she just needs to have a home, and they offer that to her. And she happens to be a good cook, and she's willing to learn to cook the way that they would like her to. And so it is, so far, that's all I've gotten out of it. I'm only on chapter 2, so not very far in. It's not a big book though. Those are the books that I am currently reading. When I finish any one of what I'm reading right now, or if something comes available from the library, then I will pick those up. That is it from me. Have you guys had a good reading week? I hope so. I hope that what you are reading is really bringing you joy, and that you are enjoying this new beginning of this new year so much. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. I hope you will like if you liked it, that you will subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.